Here she comes, a walking, talking true love, saying I've been looking for you, love. Surprise, your new love has arrived out of a clear, clear sky. Blue, clear sky. Well, how'd I do? I haven't listened to it yet. I totally messed it up. I better not mess this dinner up. Candid Country Star. You wondered how can I sing Blue Clear Sky by George Strait. Well, I know the words, and the headphones is on the tablet here. Hey, that's how you can sing while you're doing the video. And maybe it sounds better. Maybe I need some more practice. Probably become a real country star. But I just did a video called Out of a Clear White Sky. And that video, the tone of that was very, very similar to George Strait's Clear Blue Sky. But that sky by that grocery store was pretty much white, wasn't it? Well, I wanted to tell you something else. As I said about a week ago, I might be doing a lot of videos because it helps with my stress. And as you can tell, I feel better, renewed, and refreshed from the Magic Keyboard to this video right here. It's all been done in the same day. And I want to just tell you, I've been thinking a lot about my parents, my mother and my father, when they were about the age I am now. This is about the age that they were when they got divorced. They're not too far apart in age. I was a little bit younger, but what were they going through? Well, Clear Blue Sky is very much something that can be associated with my mother during this period. I'm going to talk about Tom Acosta, then we'll go back to my mother. Tom Acosta, during this time, was not doing as well. He was surviving divorce attorney, Representative Sarah Stevens, the chief politician of America's #1 TV hometown, mine, in Mount Airy, North Carolina, home of the Andy Griffith Show, the Old Millennium, and home of this chunky butt divorce attorney that destroys happiness. And then Tom Acosta got patched up at WVU Madison, became a child molester, sleeping with a 7-year-old boy today. And that's it. Another thing going on with Tom Acosta during this time, two things were good for him. One, he got to the Greenbrier Resort. That's when he met Senator Jim Justice, Senator Baby Dog, and Jim. And then Princess Diana died. And he knew she was wrong. It was a very, very strong thing with Tom Acosta. He knew Tom was right. Tom was still #1 in leading nation back then. On knowing Princess Diana, who drank all the alcohol available in France, should have been home with her kids instead of being a sinful bummer. Anyway, my mother, George Strait, Clear Blue Sky. That song right there, very much attached to my mother and her second wind, and feeling like she had come off this divorce successfully, and it's really Rita is in a new birth. And it's stride, and it's happy Rita. It's a fun mom, it's a good mom. This was our teacher of the year, who homeschooled me in 5th grade. Now I'm in like 7th grade. When he got through 6th grade, got hard time divorce, and this is the time she is dating Steve, who I think she already always knows she was going to get married to. And it's really that time when we go down to Florida, and we introduce Steve Trevette, my first of 2 stepdads, to the family down there, her brothers, her sister. And Clear Blue Sky with George Strait was playing on that Mercedes Benz. My parents, right before they did separate and get divorced, they did acquire a 1988 Mercedes Benz 190E. It's a vehicle I learned how to drive in. So I was homeless 3 times. Last time from Atlanta to San Francisco across America for 2 years. But I learned how to drive in a Mercedes. And I think a lot about looking at the optimism and hope and encouragement and the good things that were coming from my mother during this time. She was, I think, 37, about to be 38. She was right around this age. And I just think about how her life, she was a multiple home homeowner. She's a mother. She was getting remarried. My mother had only been married to Tom Acosta before that. She was married to Steve Trevette. A lot of good qualities about Steve Trevette, and I still stand by a lot of how my memory is attached to Steve Trevette growing up. But I don't know why. Steve Trevette was getting married for the 5th time. When I dated Ray, who was a U.S. Air Force veteran, honorably discharged U.S. Air Force veteran. I never really believed in it. He was just getting divorced. I never really believed Ray would be it for me. Ray would be it for me. I liked his mother and she passed. And it's just, for Rita, I think this is a very tender time. I don't think it would be the time to pick someone else, ultimately. But I look at this time of optimism in that Blue Clear Sky song by George Strait. It's very much my mother about the age that I am now. And I think about, well, what I just went through, a complete recovery in just some moods and some bad days I've had lately. And, nothing as life-changing as getting remarried. But I think about how they drove that Mercedes-Benz down. I've been wanting to get this little section up when I talk about Mercedes-Benz in Florida for a long time. We may also have a longer video where I go over all the vehicles my family's ever had. Because I think information like that, particularly what I want to say about some other vehicles, is very, very important in helping resolve time costs. I think we will look at what Nathan can do, the power of YouTube, the people everywhere around the world. It might be something like that helps lead to resolving time costs. But this particular instance, or story I want to tell you, my mother and Steve Trevette worked on Mercedes-Benz. He worked on all kinds of vehicles. But he worked at Bob Neal Pontiac GMC in Winston-Salem. And he was the head guy over there in the auto mechanic shop. And now my mother insisted that he get his GED before she married him. And I don't know what them other women were thinking. Maybe they didn't have a choice. I don't know. But my mother was really good on it. She said, you're going to have to acquire some more education before I marry you. I remember when he proposed in front of us, he said, will you marry me now? I think that's when he got his GED. My mother was doing the best with him that she could and telling him, you're going to have to get more education. And she eventually got his associate's degree, and now he's an instructor at Guilford Technical Community College in North Carolina. Isn't that right? When they went down to Florida, you have to kind of see this as, think of it more of like I really hate quite the family to like the royals, but think of it in that kind of context. Okay, so my mother had to go introduce who was going to be the replacement for Tom Acosta, the man who had been by her side since she was 13. And my mom met my dad when she was 13. He was like 15 or 16. But here she's 37, and she's going to introduce the family, and it has to be successful. I think everybody out there can kind of relate to, okay, your mom's getting divorced, she's going down to Florida, she's going to go meet her brothers and her sister. She's also going up to see Granny during this time. I'm going to introduce Steve Trevette, and it's got to be successful right away. Right? It's like the family had to embrace Steve and endorse Rita and Steve together. It had to go off. And so what happened was they had the choice. At this time, they had the ability, the money, the credit, whatever. It was all in their favor. They could have came down there in a Cadillac Escalade. They could have came down there in a town car. They could have came down there in a Buick. They could have came down there in any vehicle they wanted. They had their whole pick of how this trip was going to be made. How it was made was I went up with Granny. Granny came down to North Carolina, and it was my mom's cousin Johnny drove us. It's Amber Vance's dad. He passed, but this is back in around 98, 99. Amber Vance is in the at least as famous as Pamela Anderson video. Maybe I'll link it. Anyway, Johnny drove us down there. And me and Drew were down there, and then Rita and Steve came a few days later. But this was very much the way Rita and Steve wanted it to be. And it worked. They decided to come down there, and the Mercedes-Benz, which had just been acquired about a couple years earlier by Tom and Rita. Steve Trevette, Rita decided, let's just go in the car we'd already had, which was that Mercedes-Benz. My family is kind of like rednecks. All right, then for them. For them to see right in Mercedes Benz with this older man who was very tall. And it was sophisticated and it worked. It worked. It might have been a Mercedes Benz and they might have had George Strait playing on the radio. And it just charmed the pants off the family. And it worked. Radio and Steve, core message here, is they had to believe in the dream of being together forever. And they had to believe in that dream so much that Nora, John, David, all their wives and husbands and kids, and everybody always believed in Rita and Steve. Rita and Steve stopped believing in each other. In 2015, became official. I will be going into more background dynamics of the family, but a video about vehicles is probably going to be on the way. I'm so excited. I got things done today. I got some cupcakes. I just got the kitchen clean with my dish soap as a scotch. Like the descriptions last video. Out of a clear white sky. But I wanted to sing George Strait. And I'll have to get better at that. Practice makes perfect.